Hi. Today I'd like to talk about ambiguous loss. And one of the things I also want to say, just a quick note, that the full video, if you end up watching this on Facebook or Instagram, there's only going to be 90 seconds of it. You can find the full recording on TikTok or YouTube. So, okay, that's just a quick note. But I wanted to talk about ambiguous loss. A lot of times when somebody dies, we culturally and society, we're very good at acknowledging the loss of the person, and at least for a little while, and then usually it falls off. But the thing is, that's only part of the grieving process. The loss of the actual person is very important, but there's so much more to dealing with loss than that. And ambiguous loss can be used many different ways. It was a term coined by Dr. Pauline Boss, who I had the privilege of meeting many years back. And basically, as she said, there are some times where a person, like for instance, if a person is lost at sea, they may be alive, but they may not be. And so there's an ambiguity there. In the same way, if somebody develops Alzheimer's, they're still there, but they're not there. They're different. And you can apply that to almost any disease or disorder where the person undergoes changes. They're not the same person that they were before. But when it comes to also a death of a person, an actual death of a person, whether it be a spouse, a child, a friend, what have you, there are also a lot of ambiguous losses that get wrapped up in that usually. And sometimes it might be something like, if you normally had a routine of calling a person at a certain time, well, that routine is a loss that you have. You no longer have that, and there's a grieving that almost has to take place for things as little as that. But then there are bigger losses that sometimes you have to deal with. You might have a loss of safety and security. Perhaps you may have felt that God let you down, so you have a loss of faith, or your belief in God, just because you look at the circumstances of what happened differently. It can be that loss of love, loss of plans for your future. There are so many levels of loss when it comes to ambiguous loss. Loss of time. So whether it was a good relationship or a bad relationship, that relationship suddenly is gone. It's done, and you've lost that time. You can't get that back. Or if you wanted to have children and never did, then there's also that ambiguous loss of children that you never had. And same thing goes for if you lose a body part, whether it be to something like cancer, or like uterine cancer. You almost have to grieve the loss of your uterus, because that signifies a lot. So there's so many different things that people often miss when they're grieving. They don't acknowledge the ambiguous losses as much, just because it's more, the focus usually is on the person, and yet those ambiguous losses can be so significant. And a lot of people, you don't have to have lost a person to deal with ambiguous loss. A loss of a job can mean loss of security and so forth. Divorce means certain losses that some of which will be ambiguous. Your relationship with your children may be different, and so you lose a certain deepness or meaning in your relationship with your children after a divorce. Or so these are things to become aware of, and to one of the things, just if you were to just think, okay, what have you lost, and just ponder and go down the list of all the different things that you've lost. And it can feel overwhelming if you focus on all the things that you lost. But but a little bit at a time. The important thing is to acknowledge those losses that you've dealt with, that often are missed, and because there'll be an emptiness without addressing those losses. You can still have a certain level of feeling empty, that is on top of the loss of a loved one, and that can be very, very challenging to deal with. So, be patient with yourself, and a lot of times it's helpful to seek professional help. And but yes. Anyway, that's some of the thoughts for today on ambiguous loss. Again, if you want to watch the, well, actually, no, if you're on the reels, you wouldn't be seeing this part. So anyway, okay. Have a wonderful night, and God bless.